Hello and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk to you about all these books that I bought recently that are really unpopular books and books that I think you probably have never heard of. The reason I want to do this is because I'm sick and tired myself of looking at the same books over and over and over again on the internet. It's getting boring and I want to start talking about some lesser known books and hopefully get you lot reading some lesser known books as well to support these authors that aren't getting all the promotion online like everyone else is, like Brandon Sanderson and Sarah J Maas. They don't need any more promo. They're set for life. They're cool. These authors probably need a bit of our help. So grab a cuppa, light a candle if you want. My wife's got me onto these candles. They smell fantastic. I was never a candle bloke before, but anyway, I am now. And let's talk books. I'm going to start off with telling you what I'm currently reading because I don't think you'll have heard of this author either. Now, I've just finished reading Fellowship of the Rings by Tolkien. Tried reading that book in the past about 5 times. Couldn't get on with it. Couldn't get past the prologue. I thought it was so boring. The bit about hobbits and how tall they are and stuff. I was just like, Snorefest. But I picked it up again because loads of you messaged me and said, Tyrone, this is a you problem. You need to keep reading. So I did. And it is fantastic. 5 out of 5. I wouldn't change a thing about the book at all. It is sensational. I wouldn't even take out... Right, listen. I don't like Tom Bombadil. I don't think he adds anything to the story. I don't think the singing and the poetry stuff adds anything to the story. But I understand why they're there. And I understand that they'll probably add something to someone's story. But I still won't take it out. I would not change a thing about that book. My advice to anyone that's tried reading Fellowship of the Rings in the past is to get out the Shire. If you just get out the Shire, which is like the first 100 pages, that's just kind of setting the story and stuff. Once you get out the Shire and these blokes get on this mad adventure, it is just so cool. It is just the most unlikely gang of mandem going on this mad mission that they shouldn't be on, but they're doing it anyway. Because they're brave as Frodo's brave, Merry and Pippin are just... merry is the best word I can describe them as. And Sam Gamgee, that man, we all need to be more like Sam. He is just inquisitive, he's brave, he's loyal. Basically, throughout the entire book, they're all like, Sam, what do you want to do? And he's just like, I go where Frodo goes. What should we do, Sam? Whatever Frodo wants. He'd just follow Frodo anywhere. He's just... I wish he were my best friend. Like, I need Sam in my life. So anyway, if you failed last time, try it again. I'm currently listening on your recommendation to book 2, The Two Towers, narrated by Andy Serkis. I think that's how you say his name. And that production is fire. I don't normally listen to audiobooks, but that book slaps. And I thought, while I'm listening to The Two Towers, I'll pick up another book. So this is what I'm currently reading, which is Leave No Trace by Joe Callahan. This is part of a series. This is book 1. I read this last year, In the Blink of an Eye. And it follows a detective. She's not a detective, she's a DCS, I think. But anyway, her name's Kat and she's got a surname. And she is recently widowed in book 1. And the department ring her and they're like, Kat, we need you back. We've got a really exciting idea. We want to trial using AI in the police department because we're doing cuts and stuff and we just feel like this might be the way forward. So she's like, you sound crazy. But they're like, come back and we'll talk to you about it. So anyway, she goes back and there's this like holographic AI thing called Aid Lock. And Kat and Aid are tasked with working together to solve cold cases. So let's just imagine, get a phone call, police are like, Kat, someone's been sent to Jesus. And then she's like, all right, let's go and see. So then they stand over this person that's been sent to Jesus. And then Kat's like, oh no, this is what's happened. And then the thing, the hologram AI things like, well, statistically, yada, yada, yada. And then she's like, shut up with your statistics. I've got like logic and stuff like that. So she's trying to use logic. The AI thing is trying to use stats and figures. She's driven by emotion. He's driven by algorithms. And it's just so interesting. Throughout the first book, you can see that she's trying to help this AI learn how to be more human. And he's basically trying to teach her how flawed humans are. And they're trying to solve these cases and figure out who sent these people to Jesus. And it's just so fun. The reason I didn't read book 2 straight away after I'd finished book 1 is because I had a crisis, mental health crisis back in 2024. And I found a massive escape in fantasy books. So I turned to fantasy, read loads of fantasy last year. And then I just kind of carried on and forgot about crime. But then, since then, my mental health's picked up a bit and I'm flitting between loads of different genres again. So I started reading this yesterday. I'm like 60 pages in. It's absolutely class. You should all read it. Joe Callahan, Leave No Trace, but read In the Blink of an Eye first. Next up, we've got Guy Hale, Killing Me Softly. I went to a book event in Stockport 2 days ago called Stockport Noir, which was a crime festival, if you want to call it that. And there were about 20 different crime authors on panel. I was one of them. I think I picked up like 5 books from there because I went with a budget. In my head, I said, right, I'm not spending more than 50 quid. I've got kids to feed. I ain't got an unlimited budget. So I bought 5 books. So I'll show you the 5 books that I got. But I didn't just get them to support the authors. I got them because I genuinely thought these sounded class. And this is the first time I've read the blurb for this book. So this one, as I said, is Guy Hale's Killing Me Softly. That front cover looks pretty cool. It says, in the town of Blackjack, Nevada, washed-up singer Jimmy Wayne is down on his luck, playing covers to a limited and uninterested audience in the third-rate casino. One morning he awakens to find that everything has changed. Not only has he accidentally murdered Wendy, his girlfriend, but he's also written the best song he's ever produced. Is it the act of killing that helped him create his finest work? And if it is, should he go for a full album? Wrestling with his desire for success, his grasp of morality, and haunted by his past mistakes, Jimmy starts searching for the most terrible people he's ever known. Now, I didn't know fully what this book was about when I first bought it. I knew it was about songs and obviously like sending people to Jesus and stuff, but I didn't realise that it followed a serial killer. So maybe that's giving like Dexter vibes. If you've seen Dexter, the TV programme, it's about a blood splatter analyst who basically finds bad people to send to Jesus. And this is the first book I've come across since then where maybe you're following a serial killer that's trying to do good, although he's not doing good because he's just killed his ex-missus. Yeah, sounds good. Next up, we've got The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes. If I'm totally honest with you, the reason I bought this book is because Lauren Bukes, the author of this, was on the panel at that event and she was so fascinating. I just couldn't stop listening to what she was saying. She's South African, but I think she's moved to London, and she had so many interesting stories about South Africa and how some of the things that happen over there played into her books. I just love hearing a story about the origins of some of the stories behind the books. A lot of the time, I think we as consumers pick up these books and we read them and we just kind of read and we go, oh yeah, that was good. But we don't consider how much thought might go into these and how much of the author might go into the book itself. So I know from listening to her story that she's probably going to put a lot of her personality into this book. The blurb is almost non-existent because frustratingly, publishing houses seem to think that as consumers, we just want loads of reviews slapped on back of a book, which I don't. I don't care about like what all these people are saying. Most of the reviews that I find on most books are from newspapers, and I don't trust anything really that newspapers say. But yeah, the blurb is short and doesn't give much away. The girl who wouldn't die. Kirby is lucky she survived the attack. She is sure there were other victims less fortunate, but the evidence she finds is impossible. Hunting a killer who doesn't exist, Harper stalks his shining girls through the years and cuts the spark out of them. But what if the one that got away came back for him? No idea what that's about. But Lauren's a really nice lady. So yeah, we'll read that. Treatment by Sarah Moorhead. This is another one. I'll be honest with you, I'd not picked this book up originally because I was over budget. Well, I was actually on budget, but yeah, anyway, I didn't pick it up. I did a little question. It was a Q&A bit during the event, and I asked a question to the authors, and it was about mental health. And I got a little bit upset. I started crying because normally when I talk about mental health and my own battles, I get upset. I'm quite... I'm an emotional bloke. It is what it is. Anyway, I asked the question, got upset, and at the end of the Q&A, she came and gave me a cuddle. Sarah did. And then we got to talking and stuff, and then she said, would you mind if I gave you my book? So I said, no, of course not. Absolutely. Free book. Yeah, please. And then she gave it me, and then I read the blurb, and I was like, why on earth did I not just pick this book up anyway? I think it was literally just because I was over budget. It sounds wild. And then I've had a few messages from people on my other socials saying this book is insane. Some people want justice, others just want revenge. The future of law enforcement has arrived, courtesy of private health contractor Janus Justice. Their groundbreaking offender treatment program is the most effective method of tackling crime yet. As offenders move through the 4-tiered system, each tier more drastic in its methods. Tier 1, low-risk crimes, physical therapy and courage. Tier 2, trauma and addiction. Tier 3, aversion therapy and moral punishment. And Tier 4, Siberia, where all hope is lost. But psychiatrist Grace Gunnarsson uncovered a terrible flaw in the system, one that is allowing people to get away with murder. This sounds insane. And I truly mean this when I say I had loads of messages from people saying I need to read that. By the way, I've got this fluffy thing on my microphone, so tell me if it makes a difference, because I breathe a bit like a dragon when I'm talking. I talk so quick and I don't breathe. So then by the time I got to the end of my conversation or what I need to say, I realised that I've not breathed, and then I'm like, I just can't imagine it's a nice viewing experience, you listening to me breathing all over the page. Anyway, Her Sister's Shadow, which is a psychological thriller by Catherine Wimpney. This I bought because I sat 2 seats down from this woman's son. I was sat on front row. Catherine, the author, was obviously doing a Q&A, and then I got to chatting to her son. He asked me what I like. I told him I like police procedurals, crime, anything where there's a bit of an investigation. And he said, oh, my mum's got one of them books. It's called Her Sister's Shadow. And there was a massive, thing. I don't know what you call them. Ink corner. A big thing. What am I trying to say? Billboard. There were a big billboard, and it were her book. And there were 20 authors on, and she was the only one that had a big billboard. So I thought, well, it must be good, because she's the only one with a billboard. So that's my logic behind getting it. After reading the back of it, which I'm not going to read for you, it is about crimes and police and stuff. It's quite a long blurb, which is nice, but I just don't know that you're interested in listening to it all. Right, how many have we got here? We've got 5 books here, and I think you might have heard of one of them. Maybe 2, we'll see. This one I think you may have heard of. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Out of all the books I've got, this is the one that I think I might struggle with the most. The only reason I put this on my Amazon wish list is because loads of people messaged me and said, Tyrone, this is fantastic, it's fantasy, one of the best books I've ever read, you need to read it and you need to try this author. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll try it. But I feel like it might be one of them books that's maybe got like a slow-moving plot and beautiful writing. And usually when it comes to that, I struggle. I've got attention span shorter than my hair. I normally need the plot to be moving quite quickly or I disengage. But this year, I do want to try giving books more of a chance. I'm very quick to DNF a book. If I get to sometimes 50 pages in and it's just not grabbing me, I'll just quit. But I want to try getting to end of books this year and appreciating more than just the plot and actually appreciating good writing and stuff. So this is probably going to be one of them books that I need to give a bit of time. Next up, we've got The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. Yeah, I'm guessing this is about an old man that climbs out a window and disappears. I believe it's like a cosy general fiction book, a nice story, and The Independent say it's arguably the biggest word-of-mouth literary sensation of the last decade. Obviously, as I said before, if a newspaper says that, it must be true, because newspapers never lie. Yeah, I'll read it. It sounds cosy. It's probably going to be one of them books that I read between other books that are a bit more mentally fatiguing. This one, you've got to have heard of this one. I know you will have. Emily Henry Book Lovers. I picked this up from a charity shop for 50p. The reason I picked it up is because last year I fell in love with Abby Jimenez and then realised, actually, I really enjoy romance books. I'd never read romance before because I assumed that romance books were just about snogging and kisses and hugging and going into bedroom and doing naughty stuff. But they're not. They're actually really good. And romance books made me realise that I need to be more open-minded when it comes to books and try and just realise that it's just an author trying to tell a story. There might be a bit more kissing and snogging in one book than another, but it is really just a story. So I want to try enjoying stories more this year rather than genres, if that makes any sense to you. And Abby Jimenez's books just felt so real. My favourite one that I read so far is Part of Your World, but I really did enjoy the character Jacob in Yours Truly. He made me a better husband, even if it was just for a week or so. He was a socially awkward, anxious man who met a girl that was great for him, and he just did some nice things. And I was like, oh, maybe I should be nicer to my wife and stuff. And I don't know, maybe do more than just try and stick my finger up her ass when she's walking upstairs. So I started doing nicer things and started making her more bruised and stuff and telling her she looked beautiful more. And sometimes a fluffy romance will do that. It'll remind you to be more selfless in a marriage and, do things for the other person and not just things for yourself all the time. So yeah, read more romance, and men at least, because a lot of these books are written by women. This is kind of like a cheat code, because these women are basically putting their dream characters in here, so you can just kind of try and copy what these female authors are writing these men as, and just, yeah, be more like these men, and then as wives will probably put out a bit more. Oh, these ones. So I bought Mercy Chair by M.W. Craven. Mercy Chair is part of a series. It's book 6. I already own the first 5, but I've only read the first 2. The reason I picked these up is because I've spoken to you about this book before. So the Washington Post series, if you like crime, police procedural, mystery, investigation books, This includes the best, bar none, crime duo of any crime book ever on the face of Earth. And obviously I've not read every single crime book, but it just does. You're just going to have to trust me with this one. Washington Poe and Tilly Bradshaw are the greatest duo ever. It's just fantastic. It works so well together. It's perfection. She brings out the best in him, he brings out the best in her, and the stories are brilliant as well. The author's fantastic. This is book one. I'm not going to tell you much more than this because they are police procedurals, so if I start telling you plots and stuff, it's going to give stuff away. Puppet Show is book one, book two is Black Summer, book three is Curator, I think. This is book 6. Go online, buy them all. Honestly, you won't be disappointed, promise you. What we got here? I think we've got a few fantasy books in here. Oh, we have got some fantasy for you now. Jim Butcher, The Dresden Files, Stormfront. There you go. That's the picture of that. If you want to buy it, do. Someone told me that it is like Harry Pottery, but then I read the back and I was like, that doesn't sound very Harry Pottery. But it is a man who is, I don't know if he's half wizard or something, but his name's Harry Dresden anyway. He lives in the normal world, so it's urban fantasy, and is he an investigator or like, private investigator. Meet Harry Dresden, Chicago's first and only wizard PI. Turns out the everyday world is full of strange and magical things, and most of them don't play well with humans. That's where Harry comes in. Harry is the best at what he does, and not just because he's the only one who does it. So whenever the Chicago PD has a case that transcends mortal capabilities, they look to him for answers. But business isn't just slow, it stinks. Okay, that's cool. So it sounds more like Buffy the Vampire Slayer than Harry Potter. So it is a man who's a wizard PI who helps the local police force hunt magical beings. How good does that sound? I see this floating about a lot on Reddit. A load of people talk about this book on Reddit. I never see it spoke about on Instagram or TikTok. But I feel like it's because Instagram and TikTok, people just want to talk about what's popular, and this isn't it. So I'm excited for this. I have been warned with this series that you need to get past the first couple of books maybe before it starts getting fantastic, but book 1 and 2 are still decent. So Harry Dresden, The Dresden Files, Jim Butcher, Stormfront, book 1. Read it if you want. Linwood Barclay. Linwood, is that a real name? Look both ways. Anyway, I picked this up from a charity shop based on the blurb. It sounded really cool. I'm not going to talk much more about other than what the blurb says, because the blurb, it just grabbed me. It was just so original and unique. Residents of Garrett Island are part of a groundbreaking experiment. For a month, their cars will be replaced by self-driving vehicles, voice-controlled, comfortable and safe. Single mum Sandra is prepping for the huge media event, and she's ready for a driverless future. Widowed after her husband fell asleep at the wheel, she's relieved that her kids may never need to drive themselves. But as the day gets underway, disaster strikes. A journalist vanishes, possibly murdered, and long before it's clear something is very wrong. The cars are no longer taking orders from their passengers. They're starting to organise. They're starting to hunt, and they've got the residents of Garrett Island in their sights. I know this sounds wild, but look, we are going down the route, quite clearly, of driverless cars. That's going to be where it goes. Apparently out in Japan, they've already got buses and stuff that just drive themselves. So I just find this interesting to think that maybe in the quite far away future, stuff like this could happen. You know, if you put in AI into cars, could it ever get to the part where AI becomes that advanced where it can start to think for itself? And then cars just start mowing folk down, like playing 10-pin bowling, but with humans. So yeah, this just sounded cool. And Stephen King says that this author is a suspense master. And if Stephen King says someone's good, then they must be. Even though I don't really like Stephen King. But anyway, Stephen King obviously knows what good writing is. And yeah, so that's a book about cars. The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. This book sounds and looks wild. On the front it says, live in the saddle, die on the hog. I think this is a trilogy. Someone actually messaged me about this recently and said, you need to read this, it's fantastic. So I put it on my Amazon wishlist, and then the day after, another person bought it off my wishlist, and then the person that recommended it to me messaged me and said, dude, I've not bought you this, but I'm so happy someone did. You need to read it, it's class. It says, Jackal is proud to be a grey bastard, member of a sworn brotherhood of half-orcs, unloved and unwanted in civilised society. The bastards eke out a hard life in the desolate no-man's land called the Lots, protecting frail and noble human civilization from invading bands of vicious, full-blooded orcs. But on the heels of the ultimate betrayal, Jackal will start to question where his true loyalties lie. And then there's loads of people on back that have said it's good. One of them being Mark Lawrence, who is a grimdark author, which is basically like fantasy, but minging fantasy, usually from the baddies' point of view. And Mark Lawrence says it's filthy, charismatic, and frankly excellent. I'm so excited to try this book this year. And if I do enjoy it, I'm definitely going to get book 2 and book 3. This is by Jonathan French, and it's got a picture of an ogre and stuff on front. So yeah, if you want to read it, read it. We've got the last few now. Have you heard of any of these? Let's see. Oh, I'm not sure if you will have. Terry Brooks, The Sword of Shannara. 50p. Can you see on front of that? You probably can't, but there's a sticker there that says 50p. So yeah, I picked this up from a charity shop recently. The only reason I got this is because I follow somebody on YouTube called... I forgot his name. Let me Google him. I'm so bad with names. Let's see. What's his name? I feel like his name's Durfee. His name's not Durfee, but I feel like his surname's Durfee. Brian Lee Durfee. I follow him on YouTube, and he always says it's in his top 10 books of all time, but he does say it's because it's the book that made him want to be a writer and the book that kind of made him fall in love with writing. So I don't know what to expect. I literally just bought this because it was on a shelf in a charity shop, and Brian Lee Durfee said it was good. If you want to follow him, he's really good. He doesn't really edit his videos, so he just talks. He'll say some stuff, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to edit that out, but he never does. So I just think it's class. He's just real. He's original. And I love when people come online and they're not just trying to be something they're not. And he's definitely a guy that I recommend you follow. Plus, I don't know how he does this, but he puts up like a book review a day. He does read a lot of fantasy. So if you want fantasy recommendations, Brian Lee Durfee Reviews, definitely recommend that channel. I can't really talk to you much more about this other than the fact that, yeah, he said it's good. And on the back, it does say that there's a half-human, half-elfin person, and that sounds pretty cool. It's also got the word warlock and druid. It sounds like it could be a game of World of Warcraft in a book, which is just like a dream. So, yeah, I'll read that at some point. Now, the last one, Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. I'm so excited to read this because I've never really read much historical fantasy, so I don't know much about all that jazz, that genre. But from reading the back, I actually read the back of this when I sat down to do this video. It's the only one I read the back of, and I thought, oh, is this about the 300, the film? Because I've watched the film 300 with Gerard Butler in, where they're like, this is Sparta. Like, I've seen that film, and then I read the back of this, and it doesn't say anything about 300 on front. It just says the classic novel of the Battle of Thermopylae. I don't know how you pronounce that anyway. And on the back it says, 480 BC, at a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea in the far-flung corner of eastern Greece, 300 Spartan warriors faced the army of King Xerxes of Persia, a massive force rumoured to be over 1 million strong. Their orders were simple: to delay the enemy for as long as possible in order to buy time for their main Greek armies to mobilise. Then it goes on to say more and more and more. But that's basically what happens in 300. So is this book the story of 300? And if so, it'll be class. Someone messaged me, again, recommended this, said, Tyrone, you need to read this book, it's class. I'm just a sheep. Look, I tend to, if one of you messaged me and said, Tyrone, I recommend this book, I just get it, or I put it on my wish list at least, because I'm just so easily influenced. And yeah, that's it. So that's all the books that I bought recently. For anyone that is concerned about consumerism, I say to you, don't stress. Don't worry about it, honestly. There is so much crap going on in this world. And I don't buy out for me, son. My clothes come from charity shops. I literally spend all my money on my kids. The only thing that brings me any joy outside of my wife, kids, and family, and my dog. My dog's here. She's asleep. Sky, do you want to come and say hello to... Do you want to come and say hello? You want to come here? Come on, then. Come here, baby. Come on. Come on, then. Come on. So this is Sky. She brings me a lot of joy. But other than my family... Come here, then. She always puts her arse on my face. I know you like your bum scratching, but I prefer your face. It's prettier. Other than me, dog and my family, and doing this stuff and speaking to you lot online, no one else brings me joy, so why the chuff would I not buy books, make me a bit happy? Look, if you want to go out there and buy more books than you're ever going to read, just do it. Sometimes I walk into my bedroom, and you know what makes me happy? Just looking at my bookshelves. I look and I just think, I don't know when I'm going to get around to reading all these books, because by the time I've read one, I've probably bought 3. Who cares? Who cares? Worst case scenario, I die and my kids have got a lot of books to read. And you know what? If they don't read them all, pass them on to their kids. Books are forever. So yeah, don't stress about buying more than you're reading. I don't really think I've got much more to say today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. If you want to know what breed of dog Sky is, she's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and they are the kindest, most fantastical family dogs in the world, aren't you? Do you want to say bye to everyone? Oh, your breath smells like fish. What you had for breakfast? What you had? What you had? What you had? What you had? Oh, she's up. She's up. Oh, you're knocking my camera. Right, say bye, my little land seal.